Heidi today about the meaning of enlightenment and the knowing of the mind. The enlightenment starts to uncover the knowing of the mind. The moment we realize beyond doubt the nature of what is, a spirit, non-physical, and perceive the mind as empty, still, and luminous, we become already enlightened to a certain extent. And then the proper, real, spiritual journey begins, entering the path and uncovering everything that's inside the mind, the knowing of the mind. Because the mind is all-absorbing. There is nothing outside the mind. So all the knowing is there. Mind is completely self-aware. And once we get away from the surface thoughts, we start partaking in this knowing of the mind, experiencing different levels of the mind, having experiences of different nature, which do not mix, but we are able, once well advanced on the path, to perceive them all at the same time. There are experiences we have on a surface level, experiences of a physical reality, predetermined, bound by physical laws. And then there are experiences on different levels of different nature that are not bound by physical laws, that are not predetermined, and can be experienced at the same time. It is just important to understand that they do not mix, that they stay separate. You can see with people who have so-called mental illness of some sort, who access material from different levels of the mind and then bring them back to the surface level and then sort of somehow mix them with the experiences on the surface level, which sort of causes a great dysfunction because they cannot be mixed. They're not bound by the same laws. Also, the experiences of miracles. The person who is well advanced on the path can open the gateway for other people who are present to experience certain event on a different level, beyond the surface level, beyond being caught inside the surface thoughts. And that's why, let's say, if some of us experience a certain event, the certain number of us will keep experiencing that event on a physical level, bound by the physical laws, but a certain number of us will be able to then go deeper into the mind, beyond the surface thoughts, led by the person who is already on the path, and experience this same event on a different level, not bound by the physical laws. That's how people can be seen as flying, walking on the water, traveling quickly from one spot to another, changing shapes and stuff like that. Everything is possible when we have experience of other nature on different levels of the mind, but they do not mix. That is important to understand. You see, this knowing of the mind, the way the mind is, it's always the same. It is always there. It is just that the way we live our lives on a surface level, caught inside the surface thoughts, most of us are not even aware of it. And even if they tell us that there is this knowing of the mind that we can access, we would not know how to do that, how to access it. And we just can go through our lives, cycle after cycle, without even being aware of all the other possibilities of what actually is and the true nature of things. For example, clairvoyants can access parts of the knowing on more or less a regular basis. Children can access parts of the knowing of the mind. They're open to different levels of the mind and they can access them much more freely. They can see and hear things that adults can't. There is a lot of bits and pieces that come through to the surface level throughout the so-called life. Sometimes they come through in a dream, like We can have a dream with a special significance that sort of tells us about a future events that's yet to happen on a physical level, or that uncovers some deeper meaning of something that has already happened and we were not aware of, and so on and so on. Also, sometimes, we access these bits and pieces of the knowing in a way of just being struck on the spot by a sheer beauty of something that can be visual or that can be sounds like music. We just move ourselves outside time and space at that moment. Sometimes we sort of also experience that with other people when we sort of feel this, what they call fatal attraction to some other person, or we have this strange, very, very strong knowing that we've known that person before, although this is like the first time we've met that person. We have this knowing, we are just not aware of it. We do not put it into words. We do not express it by thoughts. A lot of people understand that. Like my mom used to say all the time throughout the years that if she was to be born again, she would do everything just the same. And, on a surface level, it is just not logical, but because her life was not a happy life, there was a lot of suffering, there was a lot of so-called bad, unsatisfactory events and a lot of sort of a misery even going on and stuff like that. So on a surface level, when you think about it, it just doesn't make any sense. But of course, when you understand the deeper meaning of things and the deeper way of how things actually come about, you understand that exactly what she said was exactly right. Everything on the surface level was predetermined and is predetermined. And whenever she accesses that surface level again and again in many different life cycles, she would do everything again the same as it is predetermined. It is a fight, as we call it. And, there are these bits and pieces of knowing that we do have that come through all the time. We just do not really put them into thoughts. We do not express them with words. And then we just stay caught inside the surface level with these sort of so-called logical thoughts and, completely caught inside this so-called predetermination and being bound by the thoughts. We have to get away from it as much as possible, get away from the surface thoughts as much as possible. It all comes and it all happens through the practice, the practice of getting away from the surface thoughts. Because this knowing is always there. The access to the knowing is always there, but there is a skill to be learned of how to access these other levels of experience, how to access the true nature of what is, how to access the mind in its natural state is completely empty and luminous and still. And all the forms are to be seen there. They just sort of come together momentarily and then dissolve and fall apart again. And the understanding of the functioning of all levels, people who are well advanced on the path can see and experience all the levels at once. But as I say, they do not mix. They stay separate. They're bound by different laws. And that is very important so we do not get overwhelmed by mixing different levels and then becoming dysfunctional on a surface, physical level. Anyway, enough for today. The knowing of the mind is always there. And we are always enlightened to a certain extent, to a certain degree. We just don't really know it. But become aware of it. Become aware of it more and more and more. Practice more and more. And partake in the knowing more and more. Take care. Bye-bye.